with a Muni Law report. And yes, it has been some time, and this time we're actually talking about the Browns. Um, we've been doing our little bit with the around the league, but here we are back doing our talking about our home team here in the brown and orange, the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be a very interesting off season as the season kicks off here within the week. Believe on March 16th. We're going to see a lot of action going on between the front office and players on expiring contracts, or they're just looking to get rid of the contracts. A lot of team needs.
Quite a bit, yeah.
I would say specifically on the receiver position, the defensive front, the front seven, I would say.
Yeah. I gotta say, the one thing is weird is that we don't have like a ton of needs when you're talking about like position by position, but it's more or less like 2 or 3 position groups that just need a complete overhaul, in my opinion,
Yeah.
or like not overhaul as I'm saying that it was bad last year, but an overhaul as with some people might not be coming back, like the defensive end and defensive line rooms. Obviously the receiving room is in disarray at the moment. That one needs an overhaul, and I think we're going to get that here pretty soon with a lot of new people. I think a lot of people are not be coming back, either said with no contract or with people that are just going to be cut because of salary.
All right, well, let's start off with the painful news. And the players that we've probably seen the last of them in the Browns uniform. We'll start with Andy Janovich. Today it was just announced that he's going to hit free agency, along with a receiver in Rashard Hollywood Higgins. That one's going to be tough to watch as he was a fan favorite, but really didn't see the field that much. The one that's really going to be painful is Jarvis Landry. Nothing's been completely said yet. It doesn't sound like they're going to make an effort to restructure his contract.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of like bad blood between them this past few weeks / month, that between a tweeting spree and dropping basically hints in his music video that he's released. It just doesn't seem like Jarvis is going to come back, and I think from kind of like a lot of injuries the past few years with him, and I know he's played through a lot of injuries, and we get that, but it's just not the amount of money that we're gonna have to pay him for a slot receiver is kind of asking a lot, especially when you need that guy or a few guys, and to pay when you're looking at 30+ million probably in the receiving room, it's kind of asking a lot. And when you got a guy like that you can free up almost $15 million in cap space, where you can go and sign another big name receiver, and a true number one receiver, I don't see why you wouldn't. And it's unfortunate to say, because I think Juice has been a staple, obviously, since he's came here, since 2018 or 2017. 18.
It was 18, but
18 from Miami.
Definitely one of my favorite Browns to ever play.
Yeah,
it is a little unfortunate that this is where we're at. Maybe they do restructure, who knows? But the way it sounds, it's not going to happen. He's due 14.8 mil. The exact number is $14,879,412. That's a lot of money for.
I think dead cap's only like 1.5 million. So
right. I can't really necessarily put the blame on him for being underperforming, should I say. I can't really put that on him.
In a year like that, you can't really put it on anybody. when it comes to. I mean, I guess you can when it comes to receivers, but
I mean,
I think
between
there's a lot bigger issues than just the receiving room that you can't really point the finger and you could put it in multiple places, you know.
right. But like I don't know, in the system that we run, it's not really a big receiver kind of offense.
Yeah.
But he was such a staple to this team. You could say that he changed the culture of this team, and he did what he needed to do. I'd love to see them bring him back, but like I said, I just don't see it happening. Two other guys that it's going to be a real, or one of them is going to be kind of a shame to see them walk is Case Keenum. Um, I think he's the odd man out. He's got a year left on his contract. He's due about $7 million this season, and it just makes too much sense to just let him go and just go ahead and trade him to a team that's in need of a backup quarterback. I think the Browns quarterback room probably needs a little more youth to challenge Baker Mayfield a little more. Maybe they
Yeah.
look to add a backup quarterback like a Marcus Mariota or maybe even a Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
Someone along those lines that maybe that they could come in and play.
Yeah, like borderline starters on their best day kind of
Yeah,
thing, but they're
yeah,
definitely a backup quarterback. But to kind of put some fuel underneath Baker, I think is needed. And if Baker does go out or has a weak season again, that someone that we could put it and feel comfortable, kind of like leading an offense for the remaining of the season, whatever that may be. I think a big upgrade there is needed, and that's a big. I think Keenum's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL as well. So
yeah.
giving off that contract would be nice.
Well, he was definitely earned that money. I'll say that because he went out
Who
there.
know?
Yeah, he went out there and played the best he could, and he got us a very important win at the time.
Yeah,
He went there, won the last game against the AFC champions and the Bengals. Granted, they didn't have anybody out there, but you know, it was still, it's good to have a backup quarterback out there that you can trust, and maybe he really would have.
especially when you don't trust your starting quarterback.
Yeah, if they would Tom Baker, I think you could have trusted Case Keenum maybe enough to make a push, but we'll never know. And then finally Mack Wilson, a guy that really hasn't found his way on the field. His rookie season, he really came out and kind of showed us that this guy can really be an everyday linebacker, but really hasn't worked out throughout the last couple seasons. And I don't know. After making the pick for Koromoa's basically solidified his role in the outside linebacker position. I really don't see Mack Wilson really finding a way back on the field in a Browns uniform.
Yeah, and he's another guy that's been posting on social media
Yeah.
about things. So he's definitely, in my opinion, going to be gone, especially when you can kind of re-sign Anthony Walker if you want to kind of like give a little bit more and take away from Mac. I mean, I'm not saying I want Anthony Walker back, but if we're getting rid of multiple linebackers in a talk about last year at this point, we're talking about how much we desperately need depth at the linebacking in the linebacking room. I like to see at least one of them back, and I think I'd rather have Anthony Walker as a rotational piece, not a signal caller starting linebacker in this defense.
Right. And then one final player that we're probably going to let walk is Ronnie Harrison there in the safety position. He's another guy that cleaned house on the social media, and that one kind of sucks. But when you can't stay on the field, or you're making bad mental errors on the field,
and that's one of the positions as well that we've seen Andrew Berry really focus on and build depth in there. we do have some solid guys to be able to, as rotational pieces to step in. Richard LeCount, obviously, Grant Delpit. We
MJ
have
Stewart.
MJ Stewart, and I think I'd rather see him back because he really came on in the last few games of the year. Obviously we have John Johnson signed up for another 3 years after this. So unfortunately, Ronnie Harrison is going to be one of those guys that, is not on the team next year. But yeah, it's just too many mistakes. And when you have a pretty good deep room, you're just kind of the odd man out with the kind of contract that you're going to kind of want.
All right. So right now, as we stand, and after, we didn't really clarify the big news that happened today is the Browns put a franchise tag on David Njoku.
Yeah. Yep.
So, as of today, our salary cap sits around 17 mil, 18 mil. It's pretty solid for where we're at spending wise. But after a couple cuts in Mack Wilson, Case Keenum, Jarvis, and then letting Andy Janovich walk after not picking up his option, the cap space would be looking kind of right around 49 million, which is a really good spot to be in. They restructured Jack Conklin's contract, to save a couple bucks there. I think they saved about 4 million.
Yep.
So
12 to 8 million. It went from 12 down to 8.
Right. It's looking pretty good. But to look at a couple guys, I think we should bring back, not exactly big names, but guys that definitely played a big role this season. Definitely got a lot of snaps. The biggest name on here is definitely Jadeveon Clowney. He's going to be looking for a solid deal, which I think the Browns are going to be able to offer. It's going to be hard not to give him the money after how much he produced. I think it was definitely one of his bigger years in the last couple seasons. I think he was right around 8 sacks this season.
Yeah, I would say it's his most consistent year of his entire career, with next to no injuries and nothing that would just keep him off the field. And I think that was huge. And I think, unfortunately, for him, good for us, is I think people are still going to be like, okay, yeah, you've had one good year. I want to see more before, kind of like what the Titans did. We'll give him $15 million. And he was out the entire year pretty much. They only played, I think, 3 games the entire year of 2020. So I think a lot of teams are going to look at him and be like, yeah, you want that money, but I don't know if we were confident in you and your injury history to give you that money. So I think it's going to work out in the Browns' favor. If he does decide to leave and go somewhere else, I think Chandler Jones would be a great pickup. Or maybe Melvin Ingram would be great as well as a replacement. And I also think Takk McKinley, bringing him back, would be incredible. And another name that I would love to see back is Olivier Vernon, after that Achilles injury. And he played really well for us in the 2020 season. It was out all last year. Is technically a free agent right now. I would like to see him back, and you can probably get him at a pretty nice price. And between Takk, Olivier, and Miles, and say you get Clowney or another pretty high-end guy, I mean, that's a pretty nice room, and something that you've been really trying to build the past how many years? 5 years that we've been trying to put pieces that just haven't worked out. I think that'd be a nice group that have rotational pieces in there going forward.
All right. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Saving, you can go out there and get a cheap deal for OV and bring him back. I wouldn't be against that, but I think the direction they're heading, they're going to address the defensive end position at somewhere in the draft, whether they go 13 with one or second round. I really think they could go anywhere with one.
Yeah.
We'll hop into that in another video, but I think a solid position that we really need to talk about. We were banged up at most of the season was the offensive line. Blake Hance really made a name for himself, and then Michael Dunn there, who's they've been kind of all over the offensive line the last couple seasons. I think they definitely earned their right to be brought back. I think they just were placed on some kind of tender, like to bring them back. Another unsung hero of the team that kind of played a role with there's a lot of injuries in our running back room is the Earn That Money Johnson. Definitely became a fan favorite this year after the Denver game. I think he definitely earned his money this year, and he might either find better money elsewhere, or the Browns might just have to toss up some cash to bring him back. And I think it would be, worth it to do it, considering the health issues we've had in the backfield. He complements both very well. And finally, the guy that we mentioned earlier at the safety position is MJ Stewart. Really turned it on at the back half of the season when we lost Ronnie Harrison. He played some solid ball. I think he's a big-time playmaker for the Browns defense. Fits in pretty good. You can put him at safety. He's a nickelback. He can go play outside. I think he does a very good job all across the secondary. And I think it'd be a great idea to bring him back. And you get him on a very cheap deal.
Yeah. And he's one of those guys that are like a hybrid player, like you mentioned, where I feel like, I think a lot of the coaching staff and front office is really focused on these hybrid players this past few years. I think he fits the mold pretty well.
And then we'll kind of take a look as free agency picks up next week. I really focused on the receiver position because I'm pretty sold on that they're going to focus on the D-line position, offensive line position in the draft. So a lot of big names in this receiver free agency class. Devontae Adams is definitely the number one on this list. I don't think anyone can really take that away from him, but he's most likely going to be either tagged or he's going to end up somewhere where they're going to be able to spend the money. And I really don't think the Browns are going to be able to afford a name like Devonta Adams. But there's a lot of good receivers behind him that I think the Browns are willing to put that money out there. This past weekend, the Dallas Cowboys came out and say that they're going to release or even trade Amari Cooper. And it's looking more so he's going to get cut. And rumors came out almost immediately that the Browns have their eyes on Amari Cooper, which, this guy that really couldn't stay healthy, but he's a great route runner, great possession receiver. I think would fit pretty well in this system. Another big name is Mike Williams. This is another guy that will probably either resign, get tagged with the Chargers, because the Chargers are kind of like, well, we don't know if we want to let him go. And really don't want him to go. But it's a big receiver that the Browns really have needed over the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's like my personal favorite as well of this free agent class.
And then another one, this guy right here is my favorite in this one. I don't care how much money you got to spend on this guy. Chris Godwin, Super Bowl champ, possession guy, runs the perfect routes. I really think that he could really turn this receiving core around. And I think he's going to be an affordable guy that you're not really going to spend too much money on him. Probably around that 14, 15 mil range where you're going to spend that on Jarvis anyways. I think he gives you a little more that Jarvis would have.
Yeah.
And then,
I think he might cost a little bit more than 14, 15 though.
Right. Then another guy coming from Chicago that was looking on his way out was Allen Robinson, another great route runner, good possession guy. Another guy that I would think would fit right into this offense pretty well. But then looking down the list, there's a lot of second tier guys that just to build a little more depth, either in the slot position or on the outside. A lot of the guys we just named were all, number one receivers, but continuing on, think a couple names like Christian Kirk from Arizona, he really turned it up, or Cedric Wilson from Dallas, Will Fuller, who's been kind of banged up over the years, but when he's on the field, he's pretty damn quick. Then DJ Chark from Jacksonville. Hasn't really had many opportunities, but when he's on the field, he's, making great plays.
Yeah.
Traquan Smith from New Orleans, who was a great player when he was paired up with Drew Brees, but they couldn't really get him going this year. Sammy Watkins, we all know him here in Cleveland. He was with Kansas City, then he was with Baltimore. Great route runner, great possession guy. I think he'd fit right in with the Browns. And then finally, Chris Conley, a guy you can kind of bring in on a 1-year deal. Be that possession kind of guy, a vertical threat.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I can feel like they can replace Rashard Higgins pretty well.
Right. I think I would honestly say that's probably an upgrade over Higgy there.
I agree.
But that being said, I think that kind of wraps up this video itself. Like I said, I really think they're going to be very aggressive in free agency and in the draft. So I would say stay tuned that. I think within this next week, you're going to see a lot of guys leave, get cut, free up some cap space. A name I'm really interested to see what happens is Austin Hooper. He's been underperforming on a big contract he's been on. And with the tag on Njoku, I wonder if that will open the door for maybe an Njoku trade, tag and trade, because that happens very often. Teams are interested in a 1-year deal and tip, or maybe they cut Hooper and save the money, but you probably won't get that Austin Hooper cut until about June, when they can really save themselves some money doing that.
Yeah.
But that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. We'll hop right into thanks for watching our show. Mean a lot report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like and subscribe, share, please. And go Browns.